Before Homestead Rescue ever came on TV, Marty Raney was already on TV when making a life that most people wouldn't even dare to think about. Signing and living with bears in floating camps and living in the middle of Alaska with a family wilderness that doesn't forgive. But the rough you can only see confidence on screen scratches the surface. There is a narrative that is far more vivid and emotional, much more intricate than the show ever lets on. And in the last few years, a mix of disputes and personal issues that are shocking setbacks have made a lot of people think an item. What really happened to Marty Raney? The narrative of Marty Raney begins back in July 28, 1956, in North Bend. He was almost in Washington, born in nature. Even as a kid, I never liked life. His child house was at the end of Mount Say Road with the closest neighbor a mile away. And it was for Marty perfect. As a child, I lived at the base of Mount Aref. He spent his days climbing, running about, and looking around with Neil. A lot of technical training, interest, and vigor. At the age of 12 at 13, he was hiking 35 meters through the Cascades like it was nothing. Faith's love of nature got stronger, more powerful. He was so strong that he quit at 16, school, got a job as a logger, and still wanted more wild. He made the transfer by the time he was 18, would shape the rest of his life. He was in charge over Alaska. His first look at from the cockpit of a 737 Alaska came. He never forgot that moment. A buddy whoppled him up since he worked for the airline front as they took off, giving him a view from above of the rough land he would one day be their home. For Marty, it had seemed like staring down from the sky. The right position for him. When he got there, his first home in Alaska wasn't even on land. It was a floatinga logging camp close to Prince of Wales's land. Completely off-grid, in every way floating on the water. Logging in those days it was hard, lovely work. And Marty got there just in time to see the final time that way of life. The trees were really big. They'd cut them into 40-foot pieces, parts, tie them together into huge rafts and erect whole living places right on top. Houses, fourplexes, trailers. Everything was on these floating platforms that cruise along from one lonely bay to the next. After getting married to his sweetheart Molly Rowell, Marty and Molly felt an urge they couldn't resist to shove even more into the countryside, away from towns and traffic and almost every comfort that most folks take for granted. In the end, they built their first house was built near the seashore off Chilkoot Lake is about 30 miles north of Anns. It was a beautiful place, however they didn't pick it for the postcard, only opinions. The streams close by were full of salmon spawning, almost giving you food right away simply. But of course, salmon draw in bears and lots of them. Marty later talked about those early days as being real like crazy with huge brown bears walking around like they owned the town. All of them striving for the same Shinninku salmon in the watershed. Together, Marty and Molly worked hard for years to get through hardships in the bush, going from one far-off part of Alaska to another before finally settling down outside of Anns, still pretty much in bear country. Their life together got rough and harsh as the terrain surrounding them, and before they welcomed 4 kids after a long time. But those first few years were hard. Marty labored non-stop just to have food on the table for Molly and their new baby daughter Melanie. And suddenly there was a scary moment. Molly started to have her baby out on the homestead and in danger. They had to go through a complication that had them go through an emergency bush aircraft going to Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory. That's where Melanie was securely brought. Marty would subsequently reminisce about those days. In complete honesty, saying they were true hard times. After a long time, after hours of hard work logging, he would come home tired, hungry, and a little bit leaner, the week, hoping he could catch one salmon along the border off Chilkoot Lake, just enough to with himself and Molly for the night. Hard Ash often said his challenges were changed him in ways that nothing else ever could. The Raneys were happy to receive their third child, Misty. Their kid was born in 1979, the same year they relocated and packed up to the area around Wasilla. This new place close to the shadow of Denali National Park unlocked a door that Marty had been for years. It was right here that he entered the realm of trips to the mountains. His first time climbing Yup in 1986, Denali came, and it was an encounter that he would never forget forever in recollection. Moving toward the end 20 feet from the top, he felt tears running down his face. Tears that instantaneously froze in the bitter cold. Standing at the topmost top of North was amazed by America. There wasn't wanting to celebrate or plant a flag. Instead, he felt small, ashamed, and overpowered by 360 of tall ridges. A jagged, icy wasteland that goes on in every direction, forever. That raw, the view was just as beautiful as the one he had fell in love with years ago from 737's cockpit, the wild world. Untouched, and he felt that unforgiving was exactly where he was. In the house. He was formally in charge by 1998, leading trips. And when Alaska's climbing was stopped by harsh winters, Marty just changed gears for the season. He founded Alaska Stone and Log, which turned his focus on creating and fixing employing the most basic materials to build homestone. Wood and grit are the ingredients. Living off the grid took bravery, and the Raneys accepted it. Even though it took time, they learned more about the land's rhythm, living without running water, heating systems, flowing water, or power. The harshness of time's environment didn't only test them, it made them stronger. In the 1990s, Marty knows a lot about Alaska, and his musical experience made him a natural fit, a guide for documentary teams. He gave a hand direct the team who filmed Alaska Spirit Off Wild in 1997. And 2 years after he were for Climb Against the Odds, a climber, a musician, and a second camera operator. His real breakthrough, but that didn't happen until 2013 when he was on Ultimate Survival Alaska, running from 2013 to 2016 on Technical for National Geographic. The show threw top survivalists into the rugged core of Alaska and said something like, "Good luck, teams fought across rough terrain, bad weather, and problems that looks like mom made them nature on a terrible day." From the start, as soon as Marty showed up, he stood out, and to be honest, it wasn't hard to see why. He wasn't just pretending to be a tough outdoorsman. He was one. After live off the land for more than 40 years, he traveled through that wild land like someone who knew it well. People saw him hunt, fish, and trap, and make shelters out of natural materials as if he were just cleaning up the Itemtious own yard. His strength, quick thinking, and calmness under pressure made him think and stay calm under pressure. A fan and a rival to be afraid of show I like best. The show got a lot of attention for its rough edge off your seat look at the threats in Alaska, climbing cliffs that made palms sweat, via deadly terrain and snowstorms that looked like it was meant to be mean. But maybe the most surprising turn of events was that there was no money incentive, no trophy, no big check. It was all about pride and showing that you could stand up to the wilds of Alaska. Marty's still after Ultimate stardom really took off, the end of Survival Alaska. The following part of his life came in 2016 when he became the core of Homestead Rescue. They didn't come up with the idea. The Discovery Channel came to Marty with a concept they called a return to the real footwear from the start on the style of the earth. What caught Marty's attention was mission. Real people, real issues, true answers. No phony drama, simply supporting homesteaders who are having a hard time make it. Marty later said that Discovery done an amazing job of finding people who took part. Everyday people living off-grid for their own reasons. Not that TV often shows people who are representative of doomsday sorts draws too. He said nice things about then twerk for looking for real family seeking to live a life that is out of reach off the planet today. After a month off thinking about it, his kids, Misty and Matt, joined the effort, changing series into a business for the whole family. But Marty had one big rule: realness. He didn't want to know about scripted or planned fights. He wanted real feelings, real stakes, and real conversations. And the producers said yes, because Marty meets each homesteader for the first time he gets there. Every moment is full of real tension and true vulnerability and actual need. When you compare Ultimate Survival Alaska to Marty thinks that Homestead Rescue is the more real series. And the reason becomes evident when you look at what the Raneys are in charge. Every episode introduces someone who is trying to live off the land, but falling short in ways that are perilous. Food, not enough food, no clean water, and animals, bad weather, threats, or broken building situations that don't let you make blunders. The Raneys don't come in like famous people. They come in as hands-on people who fix problems. They look at what's broken and find out just what the family needs the most, and then make a plan to change the homestead into something safe, useful, and long-lasting. Every family member has a distinct skill. Marty's the master of the wild, hunting, tracking, trapping, and making shelters, and reading the countryside like a book story. Misty is the one that is in charge of sustainability, specialist, making food systems stronger by growing plants and raising animals. Matt is craftsman, a builder who can changing basic elements into strong, useful structures. In combination, they become a lifeline, stepping in when people are on the edge and need help. Striving dreamers transform into pure survival, become a real way of living. All through this segment, we witness the Raney family embark on problems that would be too much for Marty at all. We're talking about being cruel, weather, unexpected fauna, and unforeseen failures that might knock out months of progress in a single instant. But their episodes kept coming and going, their dedication never wavers. What they want to do stays the same. Help people who live on farms get their land back and reconstruct their future, and remind them of why they began this trip in the first place. And by who can see the finish of each narrative change. Families leave with a homestead that lasts longer, more useful, and much more comfortable, thanks to the Raney's experience, hard work, and ingenuity. Marty and his friends are good at building things. People know his family for being resourceful. They do it all possible to use everything they find again in sight, turning trash and scrap into things or constructions that have been forgotten into smart, useful answers. But when a problem is too big or too risky to solution with the materials they had, the team turns to the network for help. If the scenario calls for a big overhaul, Discovery jumps in with the money needed to make those important betterments. Homestead Rescue has gotten accolades for its focus on living sustainably and being self-sufficient, especially now that so many people are watching they're considering of moving closer to Thailand. But like most reality shows, it hasn't been free of criticism. Some people who watch say that some scenes seem too theatrical or staged for TV, starting a discussion about how genuine how real the rescue procedure is. In 2018, a shocking event with a drone operator pushed Marty Raney into for a completely other reason. Justin Pursley, the drone pilot, had been flying his new drone in Theater Pass area when Marty, who was being videotaped without his permission, stood up to him. The problem got worse, fast. Marty hurt plays in the end, drone, which made Pursley file for order to stay away. Raney said the drone had been flying very low over his land, following him as he moved, and he thought the flight was against the law since he called a dispatcher for the trooper. It's surprising that the confrontation was considerably easier to deal with peacefully than it started. The two guys arranged to meet later that morning met in the parking lot of the grocery store to talk things over. Pursley noted that during this Marty said he was sorry and paid him throughout the meeting the whole price of the drone in cash. Then, Pursley told the courthouse to take back the request for a restraining order. Both men told their stories on social media, which swiftly got the public's people's attention and split opinions online. Marty said he heard a buzzing sound while he was sharpening his chainsaw and looking up to see a drone in the air right above him and his cabin. Heclamed stated that the drone followed him for around 1,000 feet as he walked back to his car. Play, on the other hand, said that he and his father-in-law are just trying out the new drone from a public pull-off when Marty came up to them. He remembered Bane Graney's signature astonished me. Cowboy hat looked like the TV star asked why they had been soaring above his land. Pursley's father-in-law said the drone had been flying high enough to get away from going onto private property. When the troops got there, the stories were different again. Play said that the cops promised him Marty said the drone flight was lawful, but stated the trooper wasn't sure and admitted he didn't know the details of drone law, the law in that area. Trooper's press secretary Megan Peters later said that more information were still not evident until the Alaska called get in touch with the trooper. A little while Raney later wrote an update on his page on social media, alleging he had spent going across Alaska for hours and thinking about what happened. He said he would replace Pursley's drone and said sorry for the harm. Based on the met again, Marty said he was sorry and paid the exact amount, the cost of the drone. Raney even gave pay him to film drone video for Pursley said no to the forthcoming project. Then, in 2020, Marty had to deal with another wave of public anger. This time for a song from his past that came back to life. A tune from his 1997 album Adam and Steve started to go about internet. which drew a lot of people are upset with it because it is homophobic. Words. Most of the album was made up of country songs that weren't dangerous. The last track stood out for its commentary against the rising acceptance of homosexuality. The lyrics talked about old-fashioned beliefs, condemned homosexual pride, and compared them to what Raney said Upa's partnerships that are common. The controversy came back up during a bigger talk about the culture at work in several Discovery series that come after writing about the loss of Terrence Woods. The production assistant, some of the people that used to work on the show talked the booth environment was hostile and resistant to new ideas. Within Thatcherny's decades-old larger discussion, the song got a lot of attention again. The production company Raw, which Mac's Discovery projects, answered by saying they had no idea what the song was about and were stunned by what it said. They made it clear that they did not agree with its point. All Three Media America, which had just started working together on Homestead Rescue, said the same thing, attitude, claiming they didn't agree with any oft opinions that are shown throughout the track. Discovery also put out a different comment that made the network seem apart from the song and making it clear that it didn't show what they believe or how they feel the performance. The network never made it clear if they planned to do anything against Raney or even start an internal evaluation. But even if all of the debate and uproar around the incident, Homestead Rescue kept straight on the air. No delays, no breaks, nothing. It stayed locked in. Discovery's lineup was like nothing else happened. And then a disaster happened. No one could have seen it coming. Life in 2021 on the Raney Ranch changed a lot when Marty and Molly's cabin was trouble and sudden fire. The family was quite sad about the loss. After years of hard work built over several seasons, they lost everything they depended on in a matter of seconds. Early guesses pointed to the chimney of the fireplace as the likely cause. The way it was made let extreme heat, and that very quality cold caused the calamity. For the Raneys, the timing couldn't have been worse. Winter was coming up fast, and the family immediately found themselves shaved to rebuild everything while racing gagging really cold weather. There was a lot of strain, and the stakes were enormous, huge. Discovery relied mainly on the flames to get people excited about the new season. It made some people wonder if the event was being made bigger to make it more dramatic. But it became evident how serious the event was when Marty put up a video in real time asking for aid as the flames spread the room. The fire quickly spread through the building, leaving nothing behind. As a promo materials teased out parts of Thiefens got more and more impatient as the narrative went on. A lot of people expected straightforward answers, not tiny ones, glances spread out over several episodes. This delayed rollout few let out that the catastrophe might be functioning as a hook for the story instead of an easy-to-follow story. But Discovery said that the fire was very real, framing it as the Raney's hardest thing the family has had to deal with so far. What they said about the new season made it look like there was an emergency. The family went scrambling to rebuild, threatening every step, and a terrible loss that made them work more difficult than ever. Still, the absence of lots of footage sparked continuous controversy, along with earlier claims that some parts of the series were staged. Some people who had been watching for a long time still had concerns. People who used to be there had already left, talking about what goes on behind the scenes experiences. And those stories left and affect the show's reputation. Onekim and Josh were the first to cause trouble. Zabik is in the second episode of the first season. The pair were already running a successful business when the Revolutionary Roots Farms Raneys came to see us. But the episode them as having a hard time homesteaders whose pigs had made on a huge problem. Later, the Zabek sued, saying the performance had changed their reality. They talked about how the viewers witnessed were really dramatic, been made, including dead animals that didn't belong to them, and over-the-top plots aimed to make things more exciting stress. They said they never thought production team to be imaginative license so far. Even though the result of their lawsuit was never made public, both Kim and Josh were shocked at how their home had been shown. Marty answered with a startling tone of sympathy. He remembered having fun his time working with Kim and claimed he didn't want to say anything bad about their relationship, saying that she hadn't talked to Zaid bad things about him personally. Other participants shared more mixed but mostly good experiences. Ren Andy, who was in Season 2, told the Ozark County Times said they were excited to be a part of it, while they revealed that producers shaped the Irtali for TV with a focus on faults, leaving out the fact that Thyra Professional erected the cabin, company, and even showing them how to use it. They were quick to use tools in strange ways. To say good things about the Raney family. They said that Marty was an Amazinga man who worked hard and kept building even moment the cameras stopped rolling. The Riggs family from Kentucky made similar offers. They showed that these staff requested them to make a list of the projects they wanted to work on, which made the story for their episode. They lovingly remembered how good Marty was at his job with a chainsaw, and they were amazed by how he hastily carved a bear out of wood while shooting. They did say that some parts were repeated for the sake of television. They stressed the great kindness from the Raneys through the whole thing. After then, there was a family with no problems at all. The Kondash family lives in Oregon. Confronting the end of their woodmill business, and they were quite happy to get help with their money problems. The Homestead Rescue team with open arms. The Raneys gave them a hand, reform their business, and make it stable. Their house and their business working again. Their mill is now doing well, and they say the show is to blame for helping them get back on track. These stories together make a complicated but a strong picture. A show that mixes real problems with traveling stories. A family dealing with both natural disasters and the public's watchful eye, and a group of homesteaders that lived in the same area transformed lives. Sometimes in messy ways, and sometimes in ways that make you want to do something, under the direction of the Raneys.